and obviously capped off like a brilliant November. But I think what's worth saying now as we go into December is that Notts County game at the end of October, which we all agree was kind of the turning point of the season, changed the moment, the before and after for a side that would obviously go on and win promotion. We next lost on the 7th of February away at Harrogate. We then only lost 2 league games between the end of October and the start of April. That's 5 months, 2 league defeats, which is quite remarkable when you think about it, both away from home as well. So obviously sets it all up for what ended up happening. But when you look at December, this is such a remarkable month, I think, and when we really kind of, it must be something like building in confidence or the tactics really working, because if you look through this fixture list, you start with back-to-back away cup games. Bristol Rovers on a Tuesday night, Stockport, League One Stockport, high-flying League One Stockport on the Saturday, which we win. We lose the Bristol Rovers one on penalties, we win against Stockport on penalties. And actually Mark Bonner kind of mentioned that a couple of times in our pod, so I think something that maybe internally there was a bit of, because as a fan, that game is a horror show really of a cup draw. But kind of to win it in the way that we did is obviously something that showed a lot about what this side is. Then we play Chesterfield twice in this month, at home first on the Tuesday night and then away just after Christmas. MK Dons away, the absolute league favourites, richest team in the division, the hardest fixture in the slate for everyone. Accrington at home, a bit of a resurgent Accrington from what I remember at the time. Gillingham away, tough place to go. Chesterfield away, very tough place to go. And obviously we know we don't lose any of these games, and it's a really remarkable month. We only actually won 2 of them, but I think there's something about the 2 games we won, obviously Accrington at home and Chesterfield away. But I think there's almost something in that, Jord, that there was a real resilience to this month in different sort of ways, because the Chesterfield at home game, frustrating not to win that game, absolutely. A lot of the signs we talked earlier about, Jack, with Grimsby and then later on Swindon. But then MK away is kind of the flip of that again, where it's like we've managed to put ourselves back in this game with a brilliant Kai finish. And I think a lot of the character of this squad and this team was built in this month, looking back on it. What do you think?
No, I completely agree. I think November, December was the time where names started to emerge. They found themselves having an opportunity and they've taken it. What I also think on this theme, because we've just spoken about the emergence of Ben Knight, I could be remembering this wrong, so correct me, but it felt like November, December was the emergence of Gibbo as well. Like, I think Gibbo, I could be wrong, didn't have the greatest start to the season of the opening few months, and he would then go on to obviously win the official Player of the Season award. It was a lot of people's Player of the Season, a massive fan favourite. It felt like sort of this time was, for me, sort of the emergence of him. Did he score at Accrington at home?
Yeah, scored the opener just for half time, I think, right? Yeah, that's a really good point. I completely agree with that.
The
emergence of Gibbo, which is interesting, because someone that wins Player of the Season, Kel Watts arguably has been solid from pretty much the first game all the way through, whereas Gibbo, a couple of months at the start of the season where
it's not that he played badly, it just wasn't really featuring loads.
But he's hit like a purple patch, and it's continued, and a lot of players have done that, Hoddle and things like that. So it was the emergence of people taking their opportunities and this resilience, which I think harks back to a lot of things that Harris and Bonner talk about, which is the mentality of the group, changing the mentality of the club, not being, losing every week and so on.
It was one thing throughout December as well that maybe we hadn't had for much of the season, but we did start to see real consistency of selection as well. George just mentioned George Hoddle there. Obviously, he comes into the team, but just because of injuries, really. But he forms a brilliant partnership with Pelly Ruddock in the middle, and then we obviously have that, that shape. We're obviously playing 3 at the back at that point, and the team, it just kind of picks itself at that point. And part of that is because of a lack of options, really, and that you could argue that's actually helped us. Like we were. Harris, showed his quality as a manager by basically making the best with what he had. But we stumbled across a lineup, a selection, and a system and a shape that basically just really, really worked for us. I think the games throughout December as well. Like you're right to say that. Obviously, you only win a couple of them. So in terms of points return, we probably have better months. Obviously, there's a lot of football to be played, and we come through it really well. But I think like the man of the Chesterfield game at home, they scored really late on. It's a game that we should have won. You come out of it, you're frustrated, but you're like, well, if they're the best team in the league or one of the title favourites or amongst it, like we're not a million miles off that, and arguably we're in amongst it as well. MK, like you said, hardest game in the league because of budgets and all that sort of stuff, and you come from behind to get a really well earned point, and probably with a better team on the day. And what it was just a month where we were just consistently better than our opposition, and we played some really good opposition in amongst that. And really, whether you want to say Notts County is a turning point or Barrow and the Christmas party and whatnot, really, this month is the one where I remember the conversation we were having at the time, where we basically said December's a real test and it's a real judge of where we are in the division. Because if you come through December unscathed, or you have an actually good month, which we obviously did, the needle moves quite a lot to, well, you go from being a team that has ambitions of the playoffs to a team that has serious designs on winning automatic promotion.
Yeah, I think that end to the month, going away to Chesterfield on the final day of the final game of the year and winning with a clean sheet away at Chesterfield is like a massive statement of intent.
I was just going to say, I think actually when I look back on this, that is like the statement result for maybe even it's one of the defining moments of the season.
100%.
Again, I know we've said that a few times, but if Notts County is the turning point, Barrow's a defining moment. This is a statement moment, I think, because you go to exactly like you just said, one of the pre-season title favourites, in such a busy period as well, with the injuries we're dealing with. Mayer gets injured that afternoon as well, and we come out of it with 3 points. I think that was another game where you just think, okay, maybe there is another level this side goes to.
100%, and then I don't want to spoil what's coming next, but
I think people know.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, spoiler alert. But then we push on in January, and suddenly you get to the end of January, and we're unbeatable. And I think it's a mentality thing, isn't it?
Well, I think that's a perfect segue into January, because that Chesterfield game kicks off a 6-game winning streak. So we say that December maybe we didn't turn it into the points that we maybe could have done or should have done. There's a lot of draws in there. January's the flip of that, and kind of really put our foot down a little bit here. There's let's go through them. The 2-0 Walsall win on New Year's Day, lose 3-2 to Birmingham in the Cup, which obviously we come back from 3-0 down to, that game goes on for another 5 minutes. I think we'd probably take it to extra time. Win 2-1 at Fleetwood. Beat Tranmere 4-2. Lots of character shown in that game, going behind twice. Beat Shrewsbury 1-0. Last minute penalty again from Knight, and beat Oldham 3-0 on the Saturday. After that, Tom, this month, really looking back on it, we won every single league game in January. Knight is, we say emerged against Crewe, but this is just Knight absolutely almost taking the piss at this stage. Do you want to start with the overhead kick?
Yeah. Oh, thank you for giving me this one, by the way. I was worried I was going to get Birmingham. Yeah.
Didn't go in though, mate. So
I know it's a big phrase to chuck around, but you could argue Ben Knight's January was kind of Houlihan-esque, I'd say. At times it like he was just playing a different sport to some of the opposition. That Walsall game was like within about 20 minutes, you just it's rare that you see a player just win a game individually in just a short period of time, just by being like, do you know what? Like, fuck this, I'm just going to go and absolutely nail Walsall. The goal, the lob that he scores in that game is absolutely brilliant. Like such a touch of technical ability, and I was like, wow, that's great. And then just a few minutes later, you see him like sort of contorting his body through the air, that overhead kick, which is probably my biggest disappointment of the whole season. That's not found the other side of the bar. But yeah, then like you continue going through the month, and I think obviously Knight has a brilliant month individually, and obviously as a team we do really well. But Oldham away is the one. And I guess like it's a sign of any good team. It's a sign of any season that ends in what in success, is that like becomes a bit of a joke really, going, oh, I think it was that game. No, it was that game. It was this game. But Oldham was one of them where we went to Oldham at the time and we were like, this is a real test. Like, Oldham are a serious opponent for us. They obviously did a bit of a job on us at the Abbey. Fair credit to them. They were difficult to beat.
They were the only other team that were conceding anywhere near our sort of level of goals.
Yeah, so we were like, this is, as much as December was a test in terms of like an individual game, like you're going to Oldham away, like it doesn't really get much tougher than this for the end of the season. We just take them apart. It's like,
just that 10-minute period was just mad, wasn't it? It was just like, keep it tight up to half time, 10 minutes, put your foot down, 3-0 up.
Yeah, like it's pretty easy when you're looking at that, isn't it? but like it did look easy, and I think what we saw in this month more so than any other was just a serious gear change from us being like this team that we were in the sort of first 3 or 4 months of the season, which was like, you could tell there was quality in there. You could tell that we could beat pretty much any opposition on our day that they put in front of us. We obviously beat the eventual champions Bromley in that first bit of the season, but throughout, December was a test for a different reason, but throughout this month it was just like, if you need to find a level, like, you just find it. The Tranmere game is a really good example of that. We're in a sticky situation and you bring on, I think, Lavery and one or two others, and you're just like, we're just going to win this game.
Lavery scores within about 50 seconds of coming on, doesn't he? That brilliant finish as well.
Yeah.
And on that Oldham game, I remember coming out of that game with you, Tom, and our discussion was basically like, don't worry about the playoffs.
Yeah.
Don't even worry about automatics.
Yeah.
Start thinking about the title here.
Yeah.
Because that's where we're at now. And I think it's illustrated those 2 months by just our league position. We finished October 13th in the league, finished January 3rd. So like the constant growth throughout that period is just exemplified by that, isn't it?
Yeah, we're obviously building up as well, like a pretty remarkable unbeaten run at this point as well. I think, did it go to like 16, 17 games?
I think it was 16, wasn't it?
16,
yeah.
It should have been 17, shouldn't it really? But
yeah.
Spoiler alert coming up. And yeah, I think like this was the point, and again, it's something I mentioned on the pod a couple of times throughout. I certainly mentioned to you guys coming out of the ground in the elation of the day, I suppose. So there's only one team we need to worry about, it's just Bromley. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, worry about winning the league. That's it. And look, when you obviously get to the nitty gritty of it later on in the season, like at the bitter end of it, clearly the title becomes an afterthought because you just want to get up. But at this point, you're thinking like, there ain't a better team than us in this league. Absolutely no chance.
We should just remember about that Oldham game that the two second and third goal was scored by Appere.
Yeah.
I think there is there's obviously going to be opinions about Appere, and he's, not really done what we needed from him, but he's been there at a couple of clutch points. And like, you remember when Hadme kind of dips back in and scored a couple of really important goals, and it's kind of like that nature. Like, even though he's not set the world alight, he has been really, really beneficial in a couple of really big games. And I think, it's worth mentioning that.
He also wins the penalty for the first. He does brilliantly to win that penalty as well. It's classic, proper Labrador stuff. Like, chases down the centre half, wins the ball off him, wins the foul. So yeah, I think that's a really good point to make on that. Jord, pause from the football for a second.
Oh.
January transfer business is a topic of discussion here. Just the two.
Well, it's definitely influenced by the form on the pitch, right? And those 5-6 wins in a row that were happening at the same time, and the fact that there were people coming back from injuries. I think with hindsight, probably still wasn't the correct business done, but it felt like for the first time going into a window, especially a January window, where it's like, don't need to do a lot. You just know what you need to go and get.
But again, it's a striker, isn't it? We knew it. We knew we needed a striker. We get Elliot Nevitt on loan from Gillingham. I can't remember at what point in the window he joined. Was he fairly early on? I can't quite remember at all, actually. And then Raggett's obviously the other one, who we can come on to in a minute. But it probably... I know what you mean in that we didn't need a lot, but there were some injuries still knocking about in the squad, especially up top. Like, obviously, Lavery can't rely on. Kouassi's still out, obviously, at this stage. Mayer's out as well.
They need to do a lot, but they still didn't do enough in the areas where we wanted it.
Exactly, yeah.
And obviously, it's harder in January to get that striker, but yeah, that was the piece.
It's also you're right to say that maybe if we weren't doing as well as we were at the time, we might have gone a little bit harder on maybe getting another centre forward in. Yeah. It's probably fair.
Yeah.
But for me, like, the frustration was almost compounded by the fact that we were in such a good position, and it was like, if you're not going to go all out now, then like, when are you? And look, part of this will be, I don't doubt there was the ambition to go and do it. And look, January's a tricky month to recruit in for all sorts of reasons. But it did feel like without bringing in like someone of real quality up front, you're leaving a lot of heavy lifting for Louis Appere to do, because by this point, I think as fans and probably internally within the club, you've kind of written off Lavery as being any sort of like, basically he's a bonus, and if you get some minutes out of him at some point in the season, then great, but you're unlikely to. Kouassi at that point was still a number of weeks off, and obviously he played only 10 minutes more in the season. The fated cameo against Gillingham.
When we're 4-0 up.
But I think at this point people were pretty happy with Appere, but it's like, it's not Superman. Like, he's gonna need some help.
No, yeah.
Nevitt comes in. We were like, okay, that's fine. Maybe we need a bit more, and obviously that didn't come. And I think that's where people were. Look, in the end, the results don't lie. We did enough in January, factually, because we got promoted, and that's obviously what our ambition was. But it did feel at the time like we might have sold ourselves a little bit short. We might have just put a bit too much work on Apre, who obviously wasn't proven. And yeah, it obviously had his injury problems as well early in the season.
There's so many different types of wins in January. That's the thing when you look back on them. The ones coming from behind against Tranmere, finding a way against Shrewsbury, dominant ones against Oldham. I guess finding a way away at Fleetwood. You talk about Gibber's emergence in December. I think he's really started to impact games at this point. Then we move into February. Now, Swindle, I was going to give you Harrogate away, but Tom, 2-1 loss at Harrogate. You were there that afternoon, Tom. I think of the four of us, the only one who actually made that trip, with 1,000 United fans, by the way. I mean, let's maybe start there.
That, yeah.
1,000 United fans travelling up to North Yorkshire on a February afternoon. I think you're right. Would it have been record equalling this for us, or was it maybe a game short of that still? I can't quite remember the stats on it. But anyway.
I think it was one short.
I think it might have been one short, yeah. Against bottom of the league, Harrogate. Tom, take it away.
Lost 10 games in a row at home.
Something like that, yeah.
There's that famous clip, isn't there? That Wrexham fan who's like, well, you just knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, Harrogate away, man. It's incredible how these things repeat themselves. I mean, like what do you say? I mean,
written in the stars.
Yeah, I mean,
I know.
We're just talking about the way that we just like blown Oldham away, and we're scoring goals for fun during January.
Yeah,
we are. We like, you know, we talked earlier on about that part of things being what let us down, and we were prolific throughout January. All sorts of wins, but also all sorts of goals we were scoring. And obviously we were solid as a rock, and then within 25, 30 minutes you find yourself 2-0 down away at Harrogate, and you're like, that wasn't in the script, or maybe it was in the script. Yeah, I mean, it was one of those. It was a bit like when you look back on the lockdown seasons, Harrogate away, which obviously is another just insane evening. Before the game, when you get read out all the stats on the context of it, because like that lockdown year they had like the FA Trophy final from the season before, the curtailed season, like on like the Tuesday after, they made like 8-9 changes, all that sort of stuff. In hindsight, it's quite funny, but at the time I was pretty unhappy with this. I was pretty annoyed, I would say. And Caspel can, I was with Caspel that day. He can
vouch for that.
He can back that up. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really frustrating. Look, it was eventually just a blip on the road, but it just felt like it was just unnecessary. Like I can't articulate it in a better way than that. It just felt like, why are you doing that? Just beat them. They're crap. They're rubbish.
It's more bonkers because we scored 3 goals in the next 2 games.
Well, there's that. I thought you were going to say we pull one back with only with half an hour played. 60 minutes of the game. Like at that point, you think, okay, it's a bad start. It's a bit unlike us, but there's so much of the game to go. And Tom's absolutely right to make the point about goals. Like we'd put our foot down in terms of scoring goals over January, and should sort of start to like expel that sort of myth, I guess, about us, or not myth, but that point about us.
I think it does show, like Tom just said, though, it's a blip, because then you look further throughout the month and goals are scored and games are won and games are managed. I think sometimes we went into that with there was kind of internal pressure, like pressure from that we put on ourselves, because we're on such a good run, wanted to carry it on, such free-flowing football through January. You know, it's a game that there's no chance of us losing, you know, on paper. But football's not played on paper. And yeah, we just went up there, and I think it kind of got in their own heads, the players. And, you know, looking back at it, Tom was there obviously, but looking back at the game and the highlights, it didn't look like we were kind of knocking their door down particularly. And I think really we just kind of got in our own heads that day and
rose a little bit.
Downfall.
Yeah,
really.
Definitely. Well, look, the results in February, you've mentioned them there, but obviously we lose 2-1 at Harrogate to kick the month off. We go to Crawley on the Tuesday night, respond brilliantly, win 3-0. Bristol Rovers at home, 3-1 win Saturday after that. Tuesday, again, it's a lot of Saturday, Tuesday in this period. We're at home to Colchester, who I thought were brilliant that night, one of the best sides that came to the Abbey all season. Draw 1-1. Then go to Newport on Saturday, win 2-0. And then MK Dons last game to wrap the month off. 1-1 draw, which obviously should have been a lot more. When you look back on them, Jord, there's probably 2 things for me. First of all, there's the bounce back ability, if you want to use that word. disappointing result at Harrogate. I think Sunil makes a good point on the kind of complacency or the mental aspect of that being the fault of it. But then you go to Crawley, Bristol Rovers, other teams really down there in the relegation zone, and come back and win so comfortably in both those games. Kind of like you're talking about at the start of the season in a way, but really this time like putting the goals behind it as well. And there's that same trend from the start where it's like the games we're supposed to win, we are winning. Like the Harrogate's a blip, not a trend, if you see what I'm saying as a result.
Yeah, it definitely was that Harrogate was a blip, because the word that I would use for Crawley and Bristol was just efficient. Like, we were such an efficient operator on those games. You know, even the Crawley game, like that first goal took a little while to come, just before half time, if I'm remembering correctly. But at no point in the first half were you like, we're not going to get this goal. We're on top here, and we were moving around really well. And it was good. Yeah, it was good. It was important to see goals going in, because that sort of latter stages of the Harrogate away game, we had a lot of possession around the 18-yard box and just a lot of wild shots going over the bar. You know, Ben Knight, then there was a Nevitt one, which I don't know how he's not hit the target from sort of like 6 yards out, and you're just sort of having worries there. But yeah, really, really efficient. I remember the Bristol game was kind of like an edge to it. I think they had a bit of a bounce at
Evans.
Your boys Evans had just come in, and actually that was legit, wasn't it? Because they would then not long after go on, you know, a great run of form and
they ended the season
be the form team, right?
They ended up exactly the form team in the whole division. So yeah, there was something of an edge to it.
And I also remember in that month, you touched on it, the Colchester game. It felt like a big group of games before that Colchester game were, again, ones that you would class as easier or softer. Similar to what I was saying, you know, at home before Christmas, you had like this run of games which were favourable. It felt like we had another one sort of in January, February, sort of after the Walsall game, before the Colchester game, which again made Harrogate frustrating to not get any points there, whereas you had on all the others. So yeah, some doubts definitely crept in with that Colchester game, because again, you're coming up against a good team, a team that were on form at the time. It dropped off. They didn't make the playoffs, but some doubts there. You know, we're very good, we're very efficient against the weaker teams, but when you come against like the stronger ones, still looking for more conviction in the results and still looking for some of those statement wins.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And one that would have been statement, not maybe in terms of the amount of goals that we scored that afternoon, but Milton Keynes at home. It should have been. I mean, where do you want to start with it?
We're going to do some awards later on in the show, but I would say that one of my villains of the year was going to be Elliot Nevitt for not keeping the ball in the corner in the 95th minute against MK Dons. You know, we're
basically celebrating,
waiting for the whistle. You know, we've had such a hard history against MK Dons, a team that we've really struggled against.
It's funny that, isn't it? Sorry, just to interrupt, but you just mentioned, we just talked about the January signings, who both basically in different ways, maybe we're being a bit harsh, but in different ways they contribute to.
I mean, they did contribute to us losing out on 2 points that day. I mean, it's a tough game, but you know, Raggett eventually giving away the penalty, and you just knew it was going in. You know, we could have left when the penalty was given. So quite a frustrating end to the month, and it would have just been such a kind of great victory for, you know, the fans who've endured, I'm looking at you here, Tom, you know, so many horrible trips, so many goals conceded, you know, and to come up against MK Dons, you know, earlier in the season, give a good account of ourselves, and then, you know, this home game, really important win it would have been, and also Lavery scoring in that game as well. It was kind of a perfect day for Cambridge United for 95 minutes, and then the last minute, you know, we don't need to look at negatives too much on this podcast, because ultimately we got promoted, but if you look at how many goals we conceded after the 90th minute that cost us points this season, it was an alarming amount. We should have been promoted with 5 games to go, in all honesty, you know.
On that, I'm probably being too dramatic here, but we talk about turning points and defining points in the season. This, for me, if we'd won that game, I would be like, we're going to go win the league. We're going to march on and win this league, and you know, you're like, what, seconds away from seeing out that game.
We've just had a season of 46 turning points.
Every
single game.
It's important to add the context, though, because probably at this point in the season, clearly for obvious reasons, we're so focused on our season and our results and how it impacted us and how it impacted on our route to promotion. But this is obviously the point in the season where you are looking at other teams and you are looking at the bigger picture of how does it impact the table. And MK Dons obviously end up finishing above us. Obviously got automatically promoted as well. It wasn't just like dropping points. It was like crucial drop points against like an actual challenger for, for what we felt should be our spot or our, in the top 3, or to go even further, maybe 2 teams that might battle out for the title. Obviously didn't happen in the end, but it could have been at that stage. Again, like it's weird because like in my mind I kind of had this bit of the season down again as maybe like a bit of a splutter, but like the results are pretty good throughout like throughout the month on the whole. Obviously there's an aberration in there, of course, but and again, like we're kind of talking about levels here. The Newport and Crawley games are like almost like a cut and paste job, aren't they? Where you just go up against opposition who just aren't on, like, quite literally not in the same league as anymore, but just felt like a different quality of opposition. Do your job really just clinically, and then the MK game was obviously a lot more even. But you're like, well, if this is our level, then we're probably going to be in a good spot because they're the title favourites. They've got by far and away the biggest budget in the league, best squad in the league, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, like you just felt like, all right, it felt like a bit of a killer at the time, but you also felt like, okay, we should be okay.
Yeah,
and they were a weaker side that day as well. Weren't they? I know they still had loads of players that we would want in our team, but they were, I can't remember who was out, but it felt like an opportunity to play them at the right time.
Yeah, well, the chap that scores the penalty, Aaron Collins, I think they bought for the thick end of £1 million, and he came off the bench, so weakened, but still.
Says a lot still, doesn't it? Well, we go to March then, which I think you talk about splutters there, Tom, and I feel like March maybe a touch more. But then, weirdly, there are 2 like quite big results in here. So go to Accrington, draw 1-1. As you just said about Newport and Crawley, that's kind of what you expected us to go do at Accrington. Didn't do it. But
we're getting Accrington as well?
No. Okay. I'm going through them, don't worry.
That's good.
Gillingham 5-0 win. A Walsall 0-0 draw on a Tuesday night. Salford 1-0 win. That's one of the big ones. And then Barnet 1-0. I'm giving you Barnet, Tom.
Not the mixed grill.
Not the mixed grill, though. Was the mixed grill the real MVP of that month, Tom?
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
Or James Gibbons.
Yeah, or...
Well, you missed the Gillingham game, so...
Yeah, or... yeah, that's a good point, yeah. God, it's all coming up to Wolf today. I'd say it was quite impressive that we managed to squeeze through the turnstile at Walsall.
Yeah.
Tika and all that sort of stuff.
Exactly. But earlier I mentioned about how Harrogate and Barnet were the only 2 defeats in basically 5 months after the Notts County game. And the Barnet one that closes off this month. Are there any doubts creeping in for you at this stage, Jord?
Well, it was another piece of evidence of big away following, not a big performance. So not one for the day trippers, for which I was part of for Barnet. Yeah, I think there were definitely some doubts. Spluttering's a good word. Inconsistent is another word. But there were also points in March where you saw that resilience and that bounce back ability that we were talking about. So, like the Salford win was huge after... Was the Walsall draw before that?
Yeah.
So the drop off at Walsall, especially second half.
Yeah.
So yeah, the performance to respond to that Salford win was huge. So yeah, Barnet was disappointing. More than anything, it was when throughout the season when we've not played well, we've not won games. There are still points in the games where you're like, actually, we were in it and we had chances. And the Walsall game, just before half time, Ben Knight had an opportunity, like, you score that, it's a different game. The Barnet game felt really despondent because we just, unless I'm forgetting it, just didn't really create any opportunities.
You're not forgetting it.
Yeah, and you basically had the wind and we're on top, and that's a loose term, a lot of possession second half and just like nothing really to show for it apart from sort of a good save from the keeper at the very end.
It kind of felt very unlike us, didn't it? What
was
we've
the
just
nature
seen
of
for
it,
3
yeah.
months, it just, or 4 months even, just felt like this isn't the type of side that I've just seen that kind of so sheepish in games, that sort of characteristic. But it's worth, going back a week, Tom, and that Salford win was huge, not just because of the 3 points against a challenger, but it also felt like, from my memory at the time, that we could start forgetting about Salford a little bit in terms of an autos race. How funny, how quick things turn around, because I think they had a really tough run in. I think they still had Notts and MK to play, I'm pretty sure. So there was a feeling of like, okay, well, we've put enough distance between us and them now and we'll be all right. That didn't end up being the case, did it?
It was the case. It was fine. It all worked out in the end.
I think their defeat to us was like one of very few dropped points in their
pretty
end
sure
of
you're right.
season.
I'm pretty sure
which
you're
just
right.
goes to show what a standout and statement 3 points it was.
It was,
They've
and-
had a terrific end of year, but against us they made to look very normal. Did they have many shots on target? I forget.
Graydon had a chance in the second
Yeah.
half, and obviously worth a big mensch for your man Gibbo
Yeah.
popping up with a like 20-yard header.
Yeah,
Yes.
incredible. Yeah, amazing.
I think Jord was right. I think to talk about the emergence of Gibbo. What film that'd be, by the way. At like the back end of December, which I think is right because that's when he becomes like a mainstay in the team. But this is when it's like it becomes his story almost.
Big game Gibbons.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, it's that, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this period as well, we've not mentioned. Tom, I think it was earlier in the pod, said, we moved to this new shape, Barrow away, the 3-5-2 or
Whatever you
3-4-3.
call it.
Yeah. We'd had this new shape, and we were doing so well in it. And part of the reason we were in that shape was by necessity and who was out. But March and April, he starts flickering around with a back four and a front one with three behind rather than the back five. And it's sort of like, why are you doing that? Not sure you need to do that. And some of those games, it paid off, some it didn't.
Yeah, and you've also got CUFC coming back for that cameo that we just talked about and then getting himself injured again straight away. So it kind of feels like Nevitt's not really had much of an impact. I know he started that Accrington game and I think had a goal disallowed a bit unfairly that day.
That's right, yeah.
Then CUFC gets, so he's not really impacting the squad. Lavery's always, you've always got an asterisk on him, but he is keeping himself fit. We're really in this mould of 60 minutes of Apre, 30 minutes of Lavery throughout this whole February period. And then CUFC gets injured again. So again, it's like that worry, the striker worry comes back to you a little bit. And you think, is that going to be what sort of bites us in the end? And April is, let's do April and May all as one just to wrap up the run-in. Start Easter weekend, 1-1 draw at home to Swindon, 1-1 draw away at Cheltenham, beat Notts County 4-0. This will be fresh in everyone's mind. Draw 0-0 at Bromley, lose 2-1 against Grimsby. It's only our second home defeat of the whole season, first one since the 6th of September against Oldham. And then beat Barrow 3-0, and obviously famously a 0-0 draw at Crewe on the final day. Tom, Easter weekend, how do you feel about it? I mean, looking back on it, that is... What a painful Easter weekend, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was majorly losing my rag at this point.
Well, we dropped out of the top three as well. So we talk about nerves creeping in with Barnet. That Easter weekend, undeservedly given the performances, especially the Swindon performance, that's the first time like literally you're out of those top three, and that's then we're like the Swindle level of panic creeps into all of us.
You talk about the nature of defeat like at Barnet, but it's the same conversation we'd been having all season about the nature of those defeats, managing a 1-0 fairly well, but then 1-0 not being enough right into the end. The game doesn't stop at 90 minutes. If it did, we would have been up by then. But I think it's like a lack of ability to see a game through like that with a 1-goal lead, and it will start to play on players' minds when it happens 5, 6, 7 times during the season. So it happening twice in a weekend was absolutely gutting and could have been season defining.
And I think what's specifically worrying about it looking back is three examples of three players that have been so big for us in key moments not delivering. So Ben Knight has a chance in the second half against Swindon. He really should bury. He knows that himself. He has two, I think, right? There's one way around to keeping the other.
I mean, he's got so many against Swindon, right?
He's got to be
Did
more
also
clinical.
score,
Did also score. Then you've got Louis Apre missing that chance against Cheltenham, which Tom, we stood together in that away, and I couldn't quite believe how far over the bar he managed to put a header from 6 yards out as a professional footballer. And then Jake Eastwood later on in that game, who'd been so reliable up to that point. He'd sort of proved everyone wrong. In terms of the reviews that we talked about right at the start of the pod, and those three moments that combine to not mean that should be a 6-point Easter weekend. We should be kind of as good as up at the end of that weekend.
You could throw Gibbo and Mayer in there as well. They're so reliable, so influential for the season. But between them, the Swindon goal,
yes,
they're blaming each other. I think it's probably more Mayer, but
there's a bit of Eastwood in that goal as well. By the way, I think he gets away with it a little bit. But anyway,
I think for me over the Easter weekend, I guess in hindsight, you can kind of look at it and go, well, it was a bit of a blip because we were much better than the teams that we played. Like, obviously, the performance against Swindon probably is one of our best performances of the season.
I agree.
Certainly in terms of chance creation, certainly in terms of how dominant we were against a team who, they had a bit of a big shocker of like of an end to the season, but a team that were competing and at that point was still very much in contention for the top 3 as well. We just showed pure dominance over them, and if that game had finished 5-0 like the Gillingham one a few weeks earlier they could have had any complaints, and we're probably thinking, well, it could have even been more than that. The Cheltenham game, you drop points against a team who don't even have a shot on target, which is an interesting way to go about it. So you can look at it like that, and you can say, look, we just got a bit unlucky, and realistically we're still a much better side than the teams we're playing, and it'll all come good in the end. And I'm sure there were some people who did think that, but from my perspective, it was like, when push comes to shove, we are not seeing this through. And as good as you are in January and most of February and December and the months that preceded, it means niche if you basically chuck points away in the fashion that we did. And across the course of the season, I think was it 6 times in the end?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So what was it? Grimsby, MK, Easter,
Chesterfield home,
and Chesterfield at home. So what's that? 12 points.
Yeah.
And you have to caveat this by saying that there were occasions where we did score late as well. Obviously the 2 Ben Knight penalties as well. But in terms of like net return, in those crucial moments, the kind of when your back's against the wall and trying to see out a result, we consistently were dropping points. And it's good that we were as good as we were earlier in the season. Obviously, you earn promotion across the course of a season, not just on one moment or one match, of course. But yeah, I mean, my head was all over the place at this point, particularly after Cheltenham. My God.
Yeah, I felt awful.
The word bottle was mentioned a lot.
Yeah. It was kind of surreal, to be honest, at Cheltenham, because there was just a bit of a look around the away end, like we're looking for like an offside flag or like a decision to be given, and you're like, well, we haven't conceded, like we're not going to do it again.
Surely not.
The movement of the referee really threw me. So I was watching it with the Frankfurt Youths, and it's like, oh, he's not giving it. He's like walking over to Eastwood. I think he's checking on him because he's been fouled. He's going to give the free kick or something.
He looks over at the lino as well.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, it is a goal. Like that was that was kind of almost worse than the ball hitting the back of the net as the moment of realisation that the ref isn't actually going to save you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think we can't let April go by without talking about what followed that, which we talked a lot about bouncing back, and this is just the best example of it. And now that we've got the hindsight of knowing that we did end up winning promotion, I think everything we just said about that Cheltenham game, to then have I think at that point probably direct, the person who's really breathing down your neck in terms of the race for the autos in Notts County come to town. You've just put in those 2 performances and the games have finished the way they have. For us to go and win 4-0 against Notts County, it is, out of 46 defining moments, Swindle, is this the most, most defining one?
It's interesting, and something we've done this season that we've struggled to do in past seasons is start games early and get those early goals. And I think, this game is typified by that Don Ball scoring in the first couple of minutes, just set the tone for that game. We went out really positively. We were 3-0 up by the time our goalkeeper got sent off, which was good.
I know.
Then, still managed to bag a 4th in the second half.
Adam Mayer trying to thigh pass.
Yes, I know. Yeah, there was some we're an hour and a half in and we haven't mentioned a thigh pass.
We haven't mentioned a thigh pass once, lads. Well, maybe for the awards.
Yeah. But yeah, I just think a really kind of comprehensive performance is what we've been, threatening to do all season. We saw it against Gillingham a few times where we, scored 4 against Tranmere, but just putting your chances away and winning a game so convincingly surely has to kind of show those players, don't do what you did on Easter weekend. Don't rely on that one goal, just score 4.
Then which I really wish we'd done at Crewe, to be honest. Would have been quite handy to have done that at Crewe. Let's talk about that game. I know we talked about it a couple of times, but now with a couple of weeks, Tom, to look back on it, that afternoon, the game, what are your reflections on it? I mean, that night penalty first half, I just couldn't help but think we weren't going to do it. Yeah. Having said everything we just said about how brilliant we were, there was just something in me that was like, sometimes it's not meant to be, but it was.
Just about.
Yeah, I mean,
God, the second half, it's one of those where you are looking less at the game in front of you and you're looking more at phones around you.
Yeah.
It was such an absolute nothing of a game, wasn't it?
Oh, it's nothing.
Absolutely nothing on it. And you know what? Look, we got promoted. It was an emphatic. It was a euphoric way to do it. With obviously all the tension, particularly between our game finishing and obviously the Salford game finishing. There is a part of me that thinks it would have been really good to have just done it on our own terms.
I just can't believe we didn't score at the end. I still can't believe we didn't score at the end.
Mate, what that would have been, that's actually weirdly in hindsight the one thing of that day. That if we score in the 90th...
The one bit of regret, that If
the way the ball drops to Don Ball, that
Yeah.
if he lashes that home, it's just perfect.
Yeah. I mean, I basically got an appearance that day, I think. I was like straddling the pitch for the last 5 minutes of the game, basically. And if that had gone in, I don't think I would have been able to quite hold back. But yeah, I mean, like that would have been great. Obviously, had we won the game and we would have saved ourselves sort of 5-6 minutes of agony, which would have been, welcome. But yeah, I think it was a weird thing. As a day, like we talked about it obviously on the pod just afterwards. And we were all kind of quite calm going up. We were all like, "We should be all right. Should be fine." Didn't feel like at sort of 75, 80 minutes. And yeah, look, we got across the line, and Harris mentioned it in his dressing room speech, calling everyone geezers and all that. But it's absolutely true what he said, which was you don't win promotion in one game, and obviously the game at Crewe was pretty abject, not a good advert for League Two, all that sort of stuff. You win promotion across the course of a season, and yes, it would have been nice to have won the Crewe game and put it beyond any doubt. But the reality is we were so good for such a significant chunk of the season that you kind of earned the right.
Definitely.
And that's what it is. And look, it was in our hands, and we couldn't quite do our job in the way that we might have liked to, but the reality is we didn't need to, because we kind of done most of our job in the colder months.
Yeah, well, it also feels like I did feel at the end of that Barrow game, not particularly because the performance is great performance and got the job done. I felt like we were there, and I know that's a bit of a complacent, arrogant thing to say. It just felt, with everything that was going on for all the other teams and permutations and all that, I felt like we weren't going to lose at Crewe. But I mean, I went there on the day.
Was that going to be enough, though?
Didn't watch much of the second half, as Tom said. But
or the plate lift.
Yeah.
Well, I had it pretty hardwired that Salford would beat Crawley.
Yeah,
yes,
me too.
I was just
Me too.
expecting that goal.
I think that was what was playing on my mind so much. I mean, like I suppose the other direct comparison of it is the Great Escape year, when it was a kind of similar, obviously different ends of the table, but similar in that you are relying on other results to go your way to an extent. Particularly on that day, we obviously were, like, it wasn't in our hands. But the games on that day, I think we needed MK to not win at Burton, and was it Morecambe to not win at Exeter? Yeah. And both of those, you're like, that's probably okay. They probably won't, or there's a good chance that they won't. Whereas Salford going to an abject, I mean, like we obviously talked about how clinically we put them away just a couple of months earlier. I mean, they were not, and they are not a good team.
No.
And Salford are a decent team, and it was like, they're probably going to win, so we're going to have to do our job. And that's what made it so nervy, was just this idea that, like, while we're not quite delivering our end of the bargain, you felt almost certain that Salford would. Yeah. Like, certain. They didn't. Slugs. But, It is
well, it's actually a huge player in this, is the fact that Crawley still needed a result that day, or they still had a chance of going down. I think they play Accrington the week before, and it's 3-3, I think the game finishes. But if Accrington don't, I think if Crawley win that game, then they're confirmed up, and I think that would have changed the whole complexion of the afternoon.
What I find really funny and almost ironic is comparing this promotion to the lockdown one, how for the vast majority of this season it felt so much more efficient and organised and carefree. And I know that sounds a bit odd because, like, the lockdown team scored a lot more goals and Mullin and Wes and all that, but it feels like a lot of this promotion has been done at like a really nice pace. And, it's that Notts County game onwards.
It's well organised.
It's just and to an extent maybe less exciting because of it. But we'll have that chat another time. But despite the efficiency and being so much like more on it and solid and all of that, the last game of season was like way more nervy and way more high pressured than the lockdown one, where we only needed the point.
And we're
it's like how have the worlds and the stars aligned that it's conspired that actually for all the efficiency in the 45 games prior to this, we've ended up in this spot. And same as Tom, I was convinced that Salford were going to nick a goal, but
it probably
ancient loft and all that.
Almost the best thing I can say about this team is that even after we won promotion, confirmed it, had an amazing day, I was still saying we should have won the league.
Yeah.
It's probably the best. It's like, I mean that totally as a compliment. I think this side, it would have been a travesty if we hadn't gone up automatically, in my opinion. We're often, I know we're biased, but we're often more down on ourselves than a lot of other teams are. So I'm not saying that out of like, arrogance or cockiness. I just thought that for all the reasons you just said, Jord, and that period over winter that Tom just mentioned, we absolutely deserve to go up top 3, and it's a shame we didn't have more of a tilt at the title.
I don't want to go too much into it again and bang the same drum. If you take 3 of those games where we concede the last minute goals out of it, 6 more points, then suddenly you're right back up.
It's just a weird headspace, isn't it? Because we're criticising a team that's been so good for almost being too good, and in some ways the promotion is not as like special.
Win the league.
Yeah, it's
we're
bizarre.
not asking much.
It's a very, very bizarre space to be in.
I want a title parade.
Yeah,
concede less than 33 goals.
It sounds like a criticism, but I genuinely mean it as a compliment to the side that Harris built, because and the way we transformed ourselves throughout the season. Having just looked back on it, like think back right now to the Shrewsbury answer that Tom gave. That's in October, and like the difference between that side. If at that point you'd told me you're going to be disappointed that we didn't win the league, are you mental? Have you lost your mind?
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things. I think like I do agree with the logic window of what you say about if you just like not in 3 of those games, not conceded. There is, with that sort of thing, like you can just go back through the whole season and be like, well, if we just beaten Swindon away on the
and every other
every
club
team
can,
can.
But that Easter weekend is one like in terms of if all ifs and buts now, of course. But would we have won the league if we'd have seen those games out?
Just looking at we're 5 points off Bromley, but we'd have gone into the final day, knowing that a win,
a win,
obviously,
a win would have won us the league, right?
Yeah,
so, I think the reality is it doesn't matter that much, really. I mean, like, look, it would have been nice. We're not a football club that have won many divisions in our history. Famously, sorry if you're new.
Bonner was saying on Wednesday off mic that they're redoing a bit of the training ground to put a trophy cabinet in. The little plate's going in there, so Swindon, you can get a chance to go and look at it after having missed the celebrations. Look, let's do some awards because we've been blabbering on for a while. 7 categories, the usual categories. As I said at the start, if you want to hear Mark and Alex's nominations for this, and you can go and listen to that pod. Let's go round the room. Let's rattle through these. Goal of the season, Swindle, you're going to start.
I've gone for Gibbo against Barrow.
Me too.
Absolute belter.
Has anyone got a different answer to that?
I have the same goal scorer, different goal.
Notts County diving header?
Notts County header. I'm just obsessed with it. Yeah. It's not the best goal he scored this season, but I'm obsessed with it. He's basically on the floor. He somehow managed to head it so hard that it's bounced up and over 2 players and gone into top corner. I love it.
The Gibbo of the Season award.
Yeah.
How has he got his own goal of the season?
He actually has, hasn't he?
Unbelievable.
We should do a non-Gibbo goal. Yeah.
Look, you're going to have to let me have this.
There we go.
I've gone with the Ben Knight overhead kick against Wolves.
I knew he would. I knew he would. No,
that's my goal of the season.
I'll let you have that.
What a finish.
Yeah, amazing.
Good hat-trick for him as well. Good stuff.
Is there any other shout-outs that people want to give here?
Sully Kai.
Yeah.
We've gone through pretty much the whole thing without even mentioning his name, I think.
I know,
he was obviously a good
incredible
player.
That is remarkable, actually. You're so right. We literally haven't said his name once.
We skimmed over like the MK and the Fleetwood games. He scored belters. Yeah.
The MK goal was brilliant as well.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Sully Kai getting in on the act as well.
You mentioned it already in the pod, but the McConnell in the Virtu as well.
Yeah, fantastic goal.
Sorry. We can't have a Virtu shout in there, can
we?
Of
course we
can. Of course we can.
I love the pizza.
You two have changed.
Jord, we built a new trophy cabinet. Yeah. Some respect.
Can I shout out McLaughlin at Chesterfield? It's not the best.
Nice.
Move,
I just think it's a fantastic goal. It's not going to get in the top 5, but one of my favourites is how I
think Gibbons' first goal against Notts County was absolutely brilliant.
It's fantastic. It's so good. Yeah,
and
he
also,
literally has his own competition here.
I'll chuck in there Lavery's against Tranmere.
I've got that
just for pure
underrated.
The bum goal.
No,
that was against Bromley.
The one when he thunderblasted it from the edge of the
but he'd only just come on like 10 seconds earlier.
Yeah.
I think we should officially give that to James Gibbons. Take your pick, but I think we should do the Barrow one because me and you both voted for it, and I think it got the most votes. So James Gibbons Goal of the Season award. Last year that was James Brophy away at Huddersfield. This year he's got released, so that's a shame. A Hero of the Season award. Previous winners include Josh Stokes and Gary Monk. Shows what sort of attention you can pay to this. Tom, do you want to go first?
I've gone with Neil Harris.
I like that. Yeah.
Had to be, I think. I think in pretty much every like neutral analysis that I've seen of our season, particularly from not the top 20, and obviously we go to them a lot because it's good stuff and all the rest of it. Their analysis of it on the promotion special that they did about our season is pretty much it's just been expertly managed.
Yeah,
and I think that's pretty much right. Look, we have individually a lot of good players who we've been through who all had for their careers standout seasons. Ben Knight, Gibbons, Kel Watts, probably Kai chuck in there as well. You name it, there's plenty of players in there that individually have very good seasons, but the reality is we've gone up because we were such a good unit, such a good team, and that for me comes from the manager. I think at the moment in footballing terms, at least, he's our biggest asset. He's the guy. I can't think of ever having a situation in the time that I've been supporting Cambridge where I've been so confident in a manager who will deliver what we want him to and what we need him to. Obviously last season just gone, I should say, I was fairly confident that we would be good, not quite as good as we ended up being, and I would say largely that was down to I think we had the best manager in the league, and I think we'll go up. And look, I might be sounding too bullish here, and I might be buying in a little bit too much. I think we'll go up and we'll have one of the best managers in the league above as well. I think there's so many examples of it, various examples of in-game management. Salford, I think it was it Salford when he switched to a 4 like just after we scored? I can't remember. There was something like that. But I think the biggest thing for me, like the biggest sort of indicator of his quality as a manager, is the fact that when we're up against it around that sort of barrow away period, when we're bare bones, that sort of stuff, he switches to a system which he doesn't like, and our results go through the roof. He's able to implement a new system, something different, using what he's got at his disposal, and during that period turns us into the best side in the league. That's you can't have a bigger indicator of the quality of the manager, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of other shouts for hero of the season, and that's fine. But for me, there's an alternative universe where there's another manager in the dugout. Thankfully, it's not Gary Monk, but it could have been somebody else. And I think if you give the same set of players to another manager, we probably finish in the playoffs maybe rather than automatically. So
no, I agree with that.
Yeah, shout out Neil.
And I think the big thing for me is how he's always found answers to different questions. Yeah. We talked about the consistency, we talked about the away form, we talked about, like you said, the shape, the injuries, exactly.
Goals conceded,
everything, goals scored. Look at we scored in January. He's constantly found answers in different ways, and he's done it by bringing through quite a lot of younger, inexperienced players. Look at Hoddle, look at Job, look at Knight, look at Eastwood, who I know is a bit older and not maybe a youth product in the same way, but not massive of a games behind him. And I just think it's been exceptional. So yeah, I think that's a great answer.
I'm going to take a lot of the words that Tom said and stick the word assistant in front of it.
Oh, nice.
I'm
Adam Barrett.
Adam Barrett. In a change to what I had emailed you previously, I'm going with Adam Barrett. I just think you say what's the big headline this season? Is like we've not conceded goals. We've been so good at the back. Who leads those sessions? It's Adam Barrett, who has taken Kel Watts, a player that last year really, really struggled, turned him into like a Rolls-Royce centre-back, who's taken Job, this great prospect, but didn't start a lot of games, and made him into this terrific centre-back. Bennett's had a good season. Gibbo's had the season of his life. He's had to respond to losing people like Morrison. So yeah, I just think the turnaround in our defence is huge. It's the foundation of why this season was so successful, and we just know that Monday to Friday in those training sessions, it's Adam Barrett that's doing that. He's the brains behind it. So I'm putting him forward as hero.
Great shout.
So I've gone at this from a slightly different angle, and I think
good stuff.
This year
Barbers in Nottingham.
Yeah, exactly. This year we've seen such a great turnout from fans, both home and away, but especially away. We've seen huge attendances away, and I think one of the people who's instrumental in making that happen is Gina Parkin at the club. She puts on the coaches away for people who can't necessarily afford trains or whatever, and I think it's a good initiative, and our home and away attendances have been brilliant, down to a lot of the work that she and her team does. So that's mine, slightly different. I like it. Go for Neil Harris.
I like it.
Yeah.
And she's
that's
also
nice, Swindle.
She's also great at marshalling a defence, I heard.
She is, and she's also very good at approving the posts when I post the pod on the CFU group as well. So thanks.
Fantastic, and that's very important. No, great answers, all three of you. I've got a different one who we've talked about a lot. but I really wanted to give him his own little spot, which is, for me, Ben Knight. I think it just deserves his own mention, not necessarily player of the season, because that's obviously got to go to a defender, but just the way he's been a consistent match winner. It's such an amazing journey, like even this season, as we spoke about, from not affecting games to becoming the crucial player that he has been. Now we've got a guy whose technical level is far higher than probably the levels we'll realistically reach. And, is he the finished product? No, I don't think he is. Some of those games, especially in April, like Swindon, Bromley, Grimsby, Crewe, he'll look at and think, I didn't deliver in those moments. But I think if that's a piece of the puzzle that's missing, the experience bit, he'll learn from that and just become an unbelievable talent. So I just wanted to... this is a guy who's going to give up the game before we gave him sort of an opportunity. So I just wanted to give him his own mention there. But I am going to adjudicate that I think Tom's answer, Neil Harris, deserves the hero of the season.
There
award.
are a couple of quite glaring omissions from this, aren't there? I think if you roll the clock back to January 2025, was it? When Monk was in charge and Ben Strang was director of football. Things weren't going very well, you might remember. And look, decisions were taken to remove... Well, they left the club. I think Ben Strang felt his time had come to an end and he's gone on to new things, and Gary Monk was removed, thankfully.
Finally.
But I think we've talked a lot about like decisive management. I think the owners as well, Paul and Mark, obviously, we talk about them probably less than we should, because obviously we focus on the nitty gritty of the football, the sort of week to week stuff, Saturday, Tuesday, all that sort of stuff. But I mean, relegation was on the cards last season. I mean, probably not from the first minute at Stockport when we go 1-0 down on the first day of the season, but it felt like it. Certainly by the time January comes around, and if you look at and something we've not mentioned throughout this is like just like the amount of teams that go from League One into League Two and struggle. If we had acted late and not been proactive enough to, and just realistic enough really, or sorry, they had not been realistic enough to make a decision at that point that we kind of need to gut the football side of it and really start again. That's the first thing, making the decision and doing like a football review. I think it was sort of announced as, which obviously has been good because we've got promoted and we've done a lot better than other teams who have come from League One into League Two. But once you get rid of Gary Monk and once Ben Strang leaves the club, it's like, what do you do next? Who comes in to then convince and manage to recruit Mark Bonner as director of football, who obviously also deserves his own shout out because his first full season in that job, and that's gone pretty well as well, you'd have to say. Alongside Neil Harris, I think it's fair to say there are football owners out there who probably would not have appointed Neil Harris again after what had happened. And you know what? A lot of people would say fair enough for that. But the reality is we've gone out and recruited two incredible operators who have basically like been on record as saying, look, we knew it was going to be League Two. They've prepared for it. They've executed it. I just think, the players have been great, fans have been great, coaches have been great, all that sort of stuff, away day coaches and all that, and all the rest of it, that kind of thing. But it's just been, since that decision was taken at the start of last calendar year, that is, the management of the football club, from the owners through to the coaching staff, sort of like someone like Bonner, who's obviously director of football, Alex Tunbridge, guys like that, has pretty much been perfect, I would say. And we can talk about disappointment of like Easter weekend, last minute goals, all that sort of stuff. But the reality is we've done something that not many teams do, and that's bounce back at the very first attempt. And that wouldn't have happened if we went into summer with Gary Monk or another manager and acted late and not put the sort of foundations in place to go and do it. So, I think worth an honourable mensch.
And just simply the amount of money they put into this football club to keep it alive.
Thank you for paying Penny Ruddock's wages.
Right, if there's a hero, there's got to be a villain. Previous winners include Gary Monk and Neil Harris. So his managers done the double here. Jord, let's start with you.
Yes, I've got a very bespoke take on what is a big topic for the season and perhaps might come up in other people's answers.
Bespoke's a great word.
Yeah, thank you. This is the first season that I sat in the B block, switched from the hab into the main stand, and being in there is great. I get a lovely view of the NRE. I quite often see you boys. I like to look for you. But to my left, I have a great view of the away end. And I can't remember if it was on air or off air, Julian, but Tunbridge told us that the feedback that clubs have given on the away end has been really, really positive. They've they like the terrace, they like the setup. So my villain of the year, it's happened more than twice, but there's 2 times that it's really sort of sticks out for me, is late limbs in the away end.
The Swindon ones are probably the most.
See, Swindon was the one I couldn't remember too much. I'm thinking more Grimsby, and I'm thinking MK, and he jumps into the crowd after he scores his pen. So essentially, Julian, football is about enjoyment, and my villain of the year is other people having a nice time. Yeah,
that's nice.
I think I should go next because my villain of the year is Grimsby Town.
Okay,
just for two late goals.
Yeah. Just on mine, I forgot to say, but I saw the term Limsby too much this year. Yeah, so that's voted in there.
How about getting beat in the playoff semi-finals? B.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. So there's not much to explain with mine.
But that's one of your teams, no? Grimsby.
I also did it for a bit of a.
I've gone a bit sort of down the line with mine, but I think it feels a bit harsh. But I've got Sean Raggett in here, just because basically his only contribution to the season was giving away a penalty against MK.
Got an assist.
He did get an assist. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, come on, in the third goal against Bristol Rovers,
all that.
Give me a break.
Draw time.
It feels a bit harsh, but I didn't really know what to go for. So I think Sean, it was just a bit like when I see little glimpses of him in the promotion celebrations, I'd be like, what are you doing here, Sean? Come on, Sean.
What are you doing here?
Put the plate down.
Anyway, but I mean, a bit harsh to call him the villain, but if that's of all the players, that's been his one contribution, really, memorable contribution. So that's why I've gone for him. Tom, who's your suggestion?
There were a couple of ways I was going to go with this. One of them was going to be the bloke who watered the pitch at Crewe. Well, everyone else is all right, so maybe it's a me problem. I basically on the same theme as Jordan with Swindle. Mine's just simply fourth officials. Because look, we conceded a lot of goals in stoppage time, but specifically, I remember Fleetwood away. I think there was 9 minutes.
That was insane, and wasn't it Bristol Rovers at home as well?
Yeah,
that they added on like a crazy amount.
Yeah, there was a period where there was loads of stoppage time, and thankfully we managed to see it through. And then there was a period where there was some stoppage time, and we did manage to see it through. And then obviously, on the last day of the season, stoppage time of our own game was frustrating because we couldn't quite convert, and then we had to wait for stoppage time of the Salford game to finish before we could celebrate, and we knew that we'd done it. So yeah, I think I'm a big advocate of just simply stopping the clock at 90
on the dot, please.
Just anything that happens in stoppage time is the villain of the year.
It's the villain of the year. Okay, so we'll just call it stoppage time. Villain of the year.
Time.
Okay, good. Yeah. Next up, the match of the year. Swindle,
I think it's pretty simple. One that I've gone for is just a 4-0 against Notts County. I just think you've got a team that are breathing down your neck, like you said earlier in the podcast, to put them away with such conviction, keep another clean sheet, manage the game for 60 minutes with 10 men and still score another goal and see it through. I don't think you can get much better.
And the 2 games prior to it, right? The two
bounce back ability.
The 2 disappointing results, and again, I keep coming back to that conversation that Julian and I had with Bonner and Tunbridge, but they made the point that it just showed such character that
definitely
as a team, as a unit, we've come back from one of our best performances of the season, but we didn't win, and then also the late drama only a few days later to come back and then blow away your closest rival. They were ahead of us at the time, I believe. They were third and we were fourth. Yeah. We went into that game knowing they've taken our spot, we want it back, as Neil Harris said, and it was just terrific. And then you survive most of the match with your substitute goalkeeper down to 10 men. Ben Hughes has come on, barely played football, let alone for us. And not only do you see out the game, but you get a 4th goal, my goal of the season, obviously. But just a terrific day.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's going to be hard not to give it to that. I've put Oldham away just for the reasons I said earlier. As an afternoon, as an away day, it was fantastic, and I think it just deserves a mention in this category. But it's going to be hard not to give it to Notts at home unless Tom's got a compelling case for something else.
Well, mine was Notts at home as well.
Yeah,
not really.
Any shout-outs just while we're here?
Yeah, well, there was 46 turning points, as we've obviously discussed.
Absolutely.
So there's literally 46 to choose from.
Surprised you two aren't voting Vertu games.
Yeah, Tranmere away for probably forcing me to try and find something different to do this Saturday, I guess.
Finally.
Yeah. I guess other mentions, probably some of the ones that go under the radar are probably the ones like, the really important wins, like at Fleetwood, for example, where we managed to pull it out in the last minute, having conceded sloppily. That's probably one of them.
Tranmere at home as well, 4-2.
Yeah. Do you know what?
Walsall at home.
Tranmere at home is probably one of the most I've enjoyed watching a football match because it was genuinely quite like an engaging game. We obviously scored goals, played really attacking football. Obviously an exciting game in terms of going behind a couple of times, levelling, going behind, levelling again, then taking the game away from Tranmere. So that was good. And obviously it was in that run of form where we were just excellent as well. There are quite a few to pick from, to be fair, but I think just in terms of the magnitude of it, in terms of what it did to our league position, our performance, the amount of goals we scored, the dominance that we had even with 10 men, and obviously the opposition that we played, that Notts County game is pretty hard to look past.
It's got to be that, hasn't it, really? So, yeah, we will give it to that. Next category, the Tom Walker missed the goal at Newcastle Best Moment of the Season award. We explained this category to Mark Bonner recently. He wasn't very impressed, Tom, with your with your behaviour. Last year's winner was actually the Harrison Bonner double announcement, which has gone well for us this year. I've got quite a boring answer to this, which is just the final whistle at Salford. I just couldn't not say it. Well, at Crawley in that game, but you know what I'm trying to say. I think everyone understands why. Has anyone got some other suggestions?
Mine's different and includes the man whose name is given to the award. It's already been mentioned in this podcast, which I didn't think it would be. It's Tom Walker absolutely stacking it on the pitch at Crewe at the end of the game, and that being in HD for everyone to see is great. I mean, it's great pace. Let's just, first things first. You're way ahead of anyone else there. And
quick off the mark, man.
Quick off the mark.
I think I informed everyone that I saw in that evening that I was first on.
You're still doing it now as well.
Yeah, but incredible, and just but in all seriousness, that whole
that sort of period,
incredible.
Jord?
It's interesting that in a season where we've won promotion, Swindle's mentioned an incident where Tom could have hurt himself. I have also gone for a moment where someone has hurt themselves. I've gone with the Declan Bourne substitution. I cannot remember the game, but the referee got injured and had to hobble off, got subbed off.
Oh, it was Bromley.
Was it Bromley? Declan Bourne, by the way, will crop up again later as a name. But the ref going off injured. I've never seen anything like it at a game. And
fourth official in jeans.
Was just very funny.
Fourth official, I think, was a bloke from BBC London because I actually watched that game on the telly, and for some reason I had the Bromley feed on because the way the Frankfurt U's work. And the guy was saying, I think it was, they were definitely saying that their producer or someone who worked for BBC London is a qualified ref and had put his name forward.
Was he there with his mates or something? Yeah.
Oh, I don't entirely sure, but I'm sure they were saying on the rate on BBC London or whatever that it was to do with him. So anyway, that's a rogue moment.
Bit dark, just taking enjoyment in someone getting hurt. But
do you know what I meant to say in the hero of the season, which I can sort of squeeze in here as well as best moment? Is I was going to say the referee in the Salford Crawley game, but I can twist it to the moment that he decides not to give the most blatant penalty for Dan Udo's going down. So I just want to mention that. Tom, who's your
Dan Udo getting assaulted in the box at Crawley? My moment of the season, I've just gone with Neil Harris calling everyone geezers in his in his post match discussion. Just so fittingly Neil Harris.
Yeah,
and I loved it to pieces, and I just thought that. I would do anything to be sat in that changing room having Neil Harris call me a geezer. It must have felt brilliant.
I think that has to win.
Yeah, I think.
I think we can. I think what we can do here is we can group them as post-match at Crewe, as just one big moment, and that can include the geezers, it can include his slipping, it can include the moment it all started when the final whistle went. So that's our moment of the season.
It's like the butterfly effect, that, isn't it?
Exactly.
Tom Walker slips on one side of the pitch, and Neil Harris calls someone geezer on the other
side. The flip-flopping worst moment of the season award. Usually these have been games against Posh. We haven't got one this year. Jord, I can see that.
Christ, I've kind of forgotten about that.
I've got to come to you, I think, for this one first, have I?
Yes. This season has been a lot of redemption arcs, and Declan Bourne is the worst moment of the season for me because
absolutely obsessed with Declan Bourne.
His return to the Abbey was to officiate against MK Dons, where he gave a penalty in the 95th minute, led to late away day limbs in the away end, my worst moment. So, I still don't think it was a penalty. I know some people in this room think it was, but it's the worst moment because, like I said sort of before, it was that point where I was like, I don't think we're going to win the title because we've not won this game.
Yeah,
and I know that's a bit dramatic, but that's what it felt like, and it was. I don't know, it felt like we'd got across the line, we'd weathered that storm of sort of like 20 minutes of MK like battering on the door and so on. So that was the worst moment for me.
Swindle?
My worst moment was Notts County away. enduring what was a really difficult to watch football match. Jata, the player that we didn't have in our Arsenal scoring, and at that point it did feel like this could be just a very long kind of a season that we wouldn't have anything to show at the end of it. Then it really did feel kind of pretty down in the dumps, and I had to do it all with a really cold head.
Yeah,
so
unexpectedly.
Unexpectedly cold head.
I actually have got not the same game, but for the same reasons. I've got Shrewsbury away was my worst moment, just because it felt like, this is the sort of performance that indicates we're about to have a really, really nothing season.
Yeah.
Never showed up against a terrible side, as we said earlier. So that's my worst moment, Tom.
Not much of an explanation needed. It's just quite simply Cheltenham's equaliser.
Yeah, it's got to be Easter, isn't it?
It's got to be Easter.
Head loss.
We've talked about it enough. It has to be. I'm going to group it as Easter weekend. Yeah. Because I think it's got to be both of them.
More Christmas man.
But yeah, exactly. Right, and the final one, the dedicated to Tom Hamer, the Player of the Season award, I think for the 2 own goals he scored for Burton at the Abbey a few years ago. What did he get up to this year? What did he get up to this year, Jord? Do you know?
He won promotion to the Championship with Lincoln.
He did, with Lincoln City.
Did he really?
Yeah.
So
he's
talking of redemption.
We made him.
We made him. Yeah, we made him who he is. I think we could rattle through this quite quick, shall we? Yeah. I think we've mentioned enough names, but has everyone got James Gibbons?
No, I haven't. I've gone for Kel Watts.
I have also gone for Kel Watts.
You really?
Yeah.
Have you really? Who
Yeah.
have you got?
I've gone with James Gibbons.
Yeah, I've gone with James Gibbons here.
I just think Kel Watts throughout the whole season has been consistent really pretty much throughout it all. He's also contributed with goals. I know Gibbo has too, and I think Watts just kind of nicks it with the thigh passes. So yeah.
Okay, the thigh pass is great, but I think you can every single thing you'd say about Kel Watts, you can say about James Gibbons plus the most crucial goals of the season.
No, I don't think you can, because I think we already had the conversation that James Gibbons wasn't at his best at the start of the season. I think even when we were struggling, Kel Watts was there and ever present.
Watts has been more consistent.
Yeah.
Watts has been in the side all season, but Gibbons has coincided even more so with our good run of the season. He's been absolutely crucial to us being good. Watts was also there when we were crap, by the way, conceding goals.
Yeah, but also we conceded 33 all season.
But we conceded more goals at the start of the season.
Yeah, of course we did, but he also scored goals at the start of the season.
He's also scored a similar number of goals to Gibbo's. He hasn't got the assists.
But they're not as crucial goals. I mean, like the winner against Salford, the 2 against Notts County.
I cannot believe we've got 2.
I'm just telling me that third goal against Bristol Rovers isn't significant.
For me, I just think it's so cut and dried, James Gibbons. I think he's been by far away our standout player.
He won the official one.
I think,
It'll be different.
We're
just enjoying both.
Just enjoying both.
We're a pod of the people.
He's had a glow up. He's got a new haircut. He's got a shot for Northstowe because of his interview. He's done so much for the community.
Well, look, I mean, James Gibbons has been doing it all without milk as well.
Can there be a joint winner in this?
Well, no, James Gibbons is going to win it because I've got the laptop on either side.
Can I?
When Gibbo leaves,
fair point.
Let's just remember that. Watts is loyal.
So Caspel's probably got to the end of this. And he's probably just about got through two and a bit hours of listening to us review the season and stuff.
Let's call him up.
I would just say that just to make him super angry, an honourable mention, the Player of the Season award to Penny Runner Companion.
Yes.
And on that note, I think we should wrap the pod up. Thanks, gents, for sitting in a sweaty room for the last 2 hours. Thanks, everyone, for listening this season. Obviously, there's still a few more pods coming. I think we're going to take a 2-week break for the World Cup. Tommy, excited to get out to America for the World Cup?
Yeah, I am. Promotion had made me fall back in love with football.
Ready to fall right
Thomas
out of love with
Tuchel's squad selection very nearly made me fall straight back out of love with it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. It should be a good summer.
I think if you're still up for it, we should do some pods where we get a little audio diary from you. I want to hear Tom Walker in the bright lights of New York. I want to hear the yellow cabs rushing past and everything.
I have to say, I bumped into someone yesterday who asked for that exact thing, and that's no word of a lie. A friend of the pod, Lewis Jardine, wants
give the people what they want, Tom.
Yeah, I could do that. I don't necessarily want to document all of it, to be honest. But I'll document some of it. I think, I can maybe record a voice note or something from going to Atlanta for a bit, so maybe from like a swamp or something.
It's worth saying what you just showed me there, Jord.
I was going to say, this has been a very enjoyable pod for me, but the last seconds, Matt Caspel texting us when we asked who gets Player of the Season, Watts or Gibbo, Caspel's replied saying Watts. That's got to sway it, right?
Absolutely fantastic.
I mean,
news.
It's hard for it not to sway it, but I do have control of the laptop. And
Google Doc. I can
James
edit
Gibbons
it.
got a higher FOTMob rating if you want that as well.
Right,
6 goals, 6 assists as well. 6 assists.
Rain Man.
6 assists, by the way. 0 for Watts.
He's not. That's not what he's there for.
Anyway, love them both. No, it's got to be between them two.
Imagine if this was topped by breaking news that Gibbons had.
which is a fair point, by the way. That is making me doubt my own selection. Anyway. Anyway, Swindle, thanks very much for helping us look back over the season, mate.
Thanks, mate. It's been brilliant.
Jord, pleasure as always. See you soon.